After my wife was diagnosed with mesothelioma, we did an exhaustive survey of the places she could have been exposed. We found there were many possible sources of the asbestos that caused the mesothelioma. The sources ranged from things like building materials on the house, brake linings on cars and trucks, possibly even things that were in the soil, vermiculite, that sort of thing. But in my opinion, the overwhelming exposure was due to the clothes that I wore home from work. In those days, I was working in power plants, and a lot of asbestos was used for insulation, and it was not all that regarded as dangerous. And in my jobs, I came home with enough asbestos on my clothes that if you shake my clothes, they'd make a cloud. And she did my laundry, and I'm relatively sure that was her strongest exposure. There was a great deal of difficulty getting a correct diagnosis. My wife started showing symptoms of indigestion, weakness, abdominal pain, and these symptoms started around the time of the September 11th, the 9/11/01, and she was treated for different stomach ailments. And when she was finally operated on for gallbladder, possibly gallstones, when she was opened up, that's when it was determined that she had cancer. However, it was misdiagnosed at that time as ovarian cancer. And the course of feeling ill to getting the right diagnosis until she died was about 9 months. My wife was the kind of person who was always healthy. I'd take off a sick day from work. She was the kind that would just work through whatever, sniffles or whatever. So for her to have abdominal pain, indigestion, anxiety, it was really, it was difficult to watch her suffer, and we were trying to get relief, and we had no way of knowing at the time what it was. I'd never heard of mesothelioma, and from what I've learned since then, mesothelioma is more often in the lungs, but this was peritoneal mesothelioma. It affected the entire abdominal organ area. So it went from indigestion, pain, weakness, lack of energy, until finally there was, when she was opened up for possible gallbladder, they found cancer. And then, in fact, she was charted for radical treatment for ovarian cancer when the results came back that it was indeed mesothelioma. So the method of treatment was altered, which caused us to go to New York a couple of times for really radical treatment. The loss of my wife has been tremendous to our family. She was the matriarch. The farm that we're presently on was inherited through her family. She taught the kids the farming, the horses. In fact, as the kids were smaller, I wanted to put them on motorcycles. She said, I want them to learn about farms and horses, and if they decide for motorcycles later, that's their idea. So yeah, the loss has been tremendous. My daughter and my wife were going through some initial planning for my daughter's wedding when Susan started getting sick. And so those things were put on hold, and there was just kind of a put everything aside. And yeah, it's been quite a shock. It's been overwhelming. When we were initially diagnosed as mesothelioma, we sought treatment mainly through the internet and through advice through doctors and that sort of thing. And it meant traveling to New York because there was nobody really in St. Louis treating that type of disease at the time. And there were people that stepped in and helped us to help pay for flying to New York twice. And the bills were overwhelming, and if it weren't for getting a decision in the courts, yeah, they would have been even more overwhelming.